Story time, children. Gather around. Earlier this year, I got a brand deal that offered to take me out to Detroit in the middle of January to meet up with Ford, to get a sneak peek at what they're working on, and check out the new Ford GT. Mind you, I know nothing about cars, but here is what I do know. 1. Ford is an American car company. 2. They have nice trucks. 3. My boyfriend and his family are obsessed with Ford. So I thought to myself, Detroit is basically the North Pole during the winter, but I will get to use my coat that I rarely get to use because of LA. If I go, I can geek out to my boyfriend and he can tell his family how cool I am for doing all the top secret stuff at Ford. So naturally I said yes, and honestly, I'm a bit hesitant when it comes to brand deals because if I'm not 100% behind the brand and believe in what they're doing, it's really hard for me to say yes. And at the time, I had just recently gotten rid of my car and started taking ride sharing everywhere. I did this to reduce my carbon footprint, and also, have you tried having a car in LA? It's like Mission Impossible. People are crazy drivers, probably including myself. Pretty sure I was on America's Most Wanted for having the most parking tickets in a single month. I digress. While I was in Detroit, I got to meet Bill Ford, which was cool because he's basically a legend. I also got to make some new internet friends, which is kind of amazing because I never leave my house. But ladies and gentlemen, the real showstopper was when I met Debbie. Miss Debbie is the real-life Captain Planet. Now, if you watch my Library vlogs, you already know who she is, but if you don't, let me break it down for you real quick. Debbie had the idea to use soybean oil instead of petroleum oil for foam. Their seats are made out of soybean foam. She is constantly thinking of new ways to make the world a better place by erasing our carbon footprint. She uses stuff like tomato rinds to make awesome plastics that could potentially go inside a Ford car. This is excess material that companies like Heinz don't need anymore. She's also used materials like coconut, money from the US Mint, all these different kinds of things that could fit in the Ford car, but they're being reused. We're not having to create new stuff that has to go onto the planet and cause more clutter, but we're using the stuff that's already there and making better use of it. She's a genius! Let's dial it back real quick and visit Megan at the ripe age of 5. Megan loved watching cartoon shows that talked about saving the planet, and she could really get down when Pocahontas said to paint with all the colors of the wind. The trees were my best friends, and I'd roll around in the grass until I broke out in hives. That's how much I loved the Earth. I took Earth Day very seriously, and I thought at one point in my life, I would help out in saving a species from extinction or helping the world become a better place. As I got older, I realized how small I was in such a huge world and how little I could do when things like global warming and massive oil spills have been happening long before I was even around. The thought of making a difference but never really knowing where to start and if it could possibly change anything is kind of overwhelming. So as you can imagine, when I talked to Debbie, the Megan from yesteryears screamed and about jumped out of my body with joy. She screamed with joy. Pure excitement. That day, I left Detroit no longer thinking of Ford as a car company, but as a real-life superhero that's making changes for good and taking on the great responsibility that comes with being a brand as big as they are. That's when I may or may have not become the biggest Ford fangirl. My boyfriend and his family invited me out to Le Mans in France, where we got to see the Ford GT race for the first time in 50 years. And I got into it. I bought a t-shirt, I got a lanyard, I was taking photos anywhere there was any kind of Ford logo, and I didn't get paid to do any of those social posts. I just felt really proud to know Ford the way that I did and felt a new sense of honor and respect being an American at Le Mans and a new fangirl of Ford. Spoiler, Ford won and I screamed for joy when they did. It was really cool. Now that brings me to where we are now. Ford asked me to come back to Detroit earlier this month, and they promised I wouldn't need a jacket, and before they could even finish the email, I was already responding saying, yes, please, I want to come back. Here are a few of the amazing things I found out that they are working on. The first one is autonomous vehicles. Autonomous meaning no driver. The car drives itself and gets you from point A to point B. Ford is also looking into ride sharing, which is crazy. It's no longer about having a Ford vehicle in every single house in America or the world, but it's about how we can all use a car together. So as my story comes to a close, I wanted to invite you to think of things from a different perspective. And I'm not trying to sell you a car because, like I said, I don't own one, but I am trying to start a conversation and maybe offer a different perspective on the way you look at Ford. They are doing amazing things, and there's more than one way that you can be a part of it. I'm gonna be sharing more of my experiences with Ford over the next few months, so be sure to stay tuned for that as I learn more about the company and all the awesome things that they're doing. All right, see you guys later. Bye!